Greetings and welcome. This is going to be a Americans Learns video. Today I'm going to be looking at the Dybbuk box, investigating the cursed object that inspired the horror movie The Possession. I've decided to get a little bit spooky with my makeup today. We're going in increments and bits and pieces. I feel like maybe by the end of the month, I will be even spookier. We're doing the most just for funsies. Just going a little overboard. It's fine. It's allowed. It's Halloween. It's my favorite time of the year. But anyway, I'm curious about this Dybbuk box. I've heard about it in like other TV shows, movies, that kind of thing. I've never actually seen The Possession. But I'm looking forward to learning about the Dybbuk box. This is an this is a longer video, but it is from Decoding the Unknown. I've watched a bunch of Simon Whistler in the past across the various channels, and I'm looking forward to what he has to say about the Dybbuk box. So, without further ado, let's begin.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Decoding the Unknown. As always, I'm your host, Simon. I'm here, one of my writers, in this case, Katie. Thank you, Katie. Has written me a script, The Dybbuk Box, investigating the cursed object that inspired the horror movie The Possession.
Dybbuk,
well, guess what, everybody? Starting from a strong place because I've never heard of the Dybbuk Box.
Okay, so this time he says Dybbuk. First time he said Dybbuk. I always thought it was Dybbuk Box. Okay.
Or the horror movie. I feel like I've heard of The Possession. I've definitely never seen it. Horror movies are too scary for me. Like, I don't like seeing a horror movie in the cinema because it's never scary enough, because it's the day, there's other people around, you're in a public space, you're like, I'm not going to get haunted right now. And I don't even believe in hauntings. But then again, I'm never going to watch a horror movie by myself alone at home because then it's way too scary. Like, I saw The Ring when I was a kid, and after that I was like, no, a horror movie's too scary for me.
Oh no, I feel like The Ring was everybody's like first super scary. Like anyone who's like traumatized by horror movies, it was The Ring that did it to them because they saw it when they were like 7 and they should not have been watching it. So I have not seen it. I didn't watch The Ring. Again, I've seen very few horror movies. I've seen like the first 2 Paranormal Activity movies. I've seen like 1408 and like, I don't know. I've seen a couple of them, but I've just never been a huge, part of it was I wasn't allowed to watch them. Which was probably wise because as a kid, they definitely would have infiltrated my imagination and it would have been, bad. Like it would have, my imagination would have gone wild with them. So I'm glad I didn't actually watch them a lot as a child. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I could handle them now.
Baby, I'm scared.
And I'm like, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any of this stuff. And I'm still like, they're coming for me. Like, I saw The Sixth Sense. And as a kid, I must have been like 13 or 14. And I kept going into rooms and expecting to see like dead people hanging from the ceiling.
Okay, well, that's The Sixth Sense got you at 13. I think I watched it when I was about 13 too. That one never scared me. Like, there's some like gross imagery in that one. And like, I don't know. I will say when I did watch the first Paranormal Activity movie, none of it scared me because the trailer had spoiled that bit where like the demon grabs the girl out of the bed and drags her down the hallway. So I just spent the entire freaking movie just waiting for that moment. So nothing else freaked me out because I'm like, that's the only moment that I'm waiting for.
I was like, oh, why? Do you know? Anyway, let's just jump into it.
Anyway, this is going to last forever. I'm sorry.
Do you know what the most haunted object in the world is? We've heard of haunted houses by the dozen, but specific haunted objects, not so much. What do you think it should be? A murder weapon such as a knife? A creepy doll with an equally creepy story attached? Some sort of book containing arcane knowledge and bound in human skin? Yes!
The
Definitely. I went
Necronomicon!
to dinner with some friends the other day, and I arrived like 5 minutes late because my bloody tram, like, they were it's not important why I was late. Generally, I'm always on time, so I like to make an excuse of why I was actually like 5 minutes
Even
late.
though we weren't there and you weren't late for us, so it's fine.
And my mate's like, yeah, and that's why the Horcruxes couldn't be destroyed. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, I'm just explaining Harry Potter to my other mate. And I'm like, do you care about this? And he's like, no, I don't know why you're explaining this to me. And I was like, I knew you didn't care. I don't care. No one cares.
It's too old.
Except for the other dude who was explaining the Horcruxes. Well, it's not as horrible as
too much
that.
to explain.
In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Dybbuk box. allegedly the world's most haunted.
My hair is driving me crazy right now, and every time I like turn to look at the camera, I could see it. Sorry. There was a random pause.
Haunted object and trace its journey from the ashes of the Holocaust to becoming the jewel in the crown of a Las Vegas museum via a blockbuster horror movie. While it might have entered the mainstream, its power still has a hold on whoever owns it. So whatever you do, don't open the box. I'd open the out of that box. I'd go to that Las Vegas museum and they'd be like, dare anybody open the box. And I'd be like, I'll do it.
I will 100% open the box.
Give me some like coupons for slot machines. I'll do it. Because
I would do it.
Curses and haunted things are not real. The last time I thought they were real, I must have been like 11. I remember someone at school was like, oh, well, yeah, I'll put a curse on you. And I'm like, oh my God, wait, a curse is real? I should look this up. Because that's what you think when you're 11. And you're like, because someone says it with just such conviction.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, that's not real. So, okay, good.
Where's that?
Today's video.
Oh man, that's Uncle Roger. Okay. I was like, where's that clip of, from Parks and Rec? With the guy being like, 2 things white people are afraid of. It's like curses.
It's brought to you by one of my more unusual sponsors, and that would be Foreo, the beauty company that decided to sponsor dear old Fact Boy. Dear old Fact Boy who's looking younger every day thanks to Foreo. That's right. Look, I've told you about the bear before, but today I want to talk to you about the Luna 4. This is a fantastic 2-in-1 smart facial cleansing and firming device. With Luna 4, you can enjoy an effortless skincare routine tailored perfectly to your needs. It offers personalized cleansing, app-guided firming massages with relaxing T-sonic pulsations. And here's the kicker. It's incredibly hygienic with ultra-hygienic silicone touch points that are 35 times more hygienic than brushes with nylon bristles. And look, I swear to God, I'm not going to become a beauty YouTuber, but I have had spots and like little bits of problems with my skin from using like bad brushes and cloths. Don't do it. Use Luna 4. I've been using it regularly. My skin has never looked better. That along with Bear have been pretty amazing. I just have like non-splotchy, nice smooth skin these days and it's amazing. It's why I was like, yes, beauty company, you can sponsor me even though it seems like a very weird fit. What's a better fit might be, it's a great gift for your significant other. I got my wife the Bear. I've also got her this Luna 4. So she's happy about that.
I'd be curious about trying some of that stuff.
Off Luna 4, but it's only for the first 100 people. So if you want to treat yourself or surprise someone special, don't miss out on this offer. Check the link in the description below. And now back to today's video. The Dybbuk. First things first, let's catch up on the history of the Dybbuk. This malevolent spirit springs from Jewish mythology and can be traced back as far as the 16th century.
Alcohol in this box.
I feel like I'm so can't curse me. At home right now being like, I curse you, son. Damn you to eternal hell. Like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. I remember like years ago, someone sent me an email. It was just like, I get a lot of like, you know, a lot of fan mail. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very occasionally, people are like, you piece of shit. I'm going to eat your eyes. And I'll be like, okay. And someone was like, look, I know you don't believe in this stuff, but I genuinely see that your life is going to take a turn for the worst and all of this. And I was reading that being like, please. And that was several years ago. And my life has gone awesome. Thank you very much. Because none of it's real. It likes to attach itself to living people and can be compared with demonic possession. Similarly, the Dybbuk can be exorcised out of a person, or it can just leave of its own accord after finishing its evil deeds. The word Dybbuk.
It's like, bored now. You're boring me. I'm going to go back into my little whiskey crate over here, my little alcohol distiller kit. Like, it looked like there was just like bottles for alcohol in that box.
Derives from a Hebrew word meaning to cling or to adhere, i.e. the Dybbuk clings to its host and is not easily removed. It has also been said that Dybbuks are displaced souls of evil people who have not repented for their sins and want to finish whatever malicious deeds they had started prior to death. There have been a lot of references to Dybbuks in plays, films, books, and there seems to be a sexual spin-off law where male Dybbuks enter their brides-to-be on their wedding nights. That's where they enter through. What the I ain't their nostrils, I'll tell you that much. No, it's not.
Ew.
We all know where it is.
Stop.
It's the eyes. Luckily, the story that we have for you today doesn't go,
it's the
go
eyes.
into that territory, so let's find out more about this object, the Dybbuk box. Sound familiar? As I mentioned, Katie, it does not. But let's carry on. The possession sounds familiar.
Only because supernatural, honestly.
heard of that movie.
They have a
for
Dybbuk
sure.
box in
I've
that.
never seen it. That's definitely a fact. This is a real item. You can go see it for yourself if you really want. It's on display at the Haunted Museum run by Zach Baggins in Las Vegas. More on him later. From the
Is he the
outside,
Ghost
it doesn't look
Adventurers
too
guy?
scary, but this wooden box has garnered a pretty troubling reputation. It's a small wine cabinet, i.e. a cabinet made to hold a few bottles of wine with 2 doors in front and a pull-out drawer below them. That sounds rather nice.
Yeah, I want one
That
of those.
sounds nice. I'm decorating a house currently, just getting furniture and furniture and I'm like, that sounds good. I'd have a Dybbuk box.
Little idea.
Like, just to store some wine in. And in that little drawer underneath, you could put like a bottle opener, a few of those little sealing corks. Yeah, that'd be great.
Great.
What's wrong with that? It has an inscription in Hebrew on the back, and it's supposed to be haunted by a Dybbuk. If that sounds like classic horror movie fare, it's because this particular Dybbuk box comes with a rich history that even inspired its fictionalized blockbuster. The 2012 supernatural horror film The Possession uses the Dybbuk box as a main plot device, with a woman attempting to destroy it with a hammer at the beginning before looking like she suffers a stroke and is attacked by unseen forces. Later, the evil spirit latches on to a young girl and causes trouble and death to those around her.
Of course
Before
it does.
she's saved via an exorcism, she causes trouble and death.
And death.
It's like, oh, what are you doing? Causing a bit of trouble
And death.
The box in the movie doesn't
And
look
killing.
the same as the actual Dybbuk box. It's rectangular and more aesthetically pleasing than a small wine cabinet. However,
Killing.
multiple cast and crew, including the director Ol Borndale and co-producer Sam Raimi of Evil Dead fame, make references to the actual
Raimi.
real-life Dybbuk box as inspiration for the film. Borndale also mentioned some bad luck that followed the film around, such as all the sets' unlit neon lights exploding and all the props being lost to a mysterious fire shortly after the film was finished. Honestly, though, that just sounds like marketing, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, I made this horror film. Turns out, it's like if you were filming the Blair Witch Project, be like, no, it's all real. It's like, but I know it's all real.
Also, there's so many things that's like such confirmation bias. Like things go wrong on film sets all the time, but they don't like become, well like publicized unless it's for a horror movie. Like, or like back in the 30s or whatever, like with Wizard of Oz, there was a lot of stuff that went wrong, and I don't know if people knew about it at the time, but like, yeah, like, but things go wrong on horror movies all the time, or like in all movies, things just go wrong, and it's like it gets blown way out of proportion if it's a horror movie because your confirmation bias, you're like, oh, I'm working on a creepy movie and creepy things are happening. It's like things are creepy sometimes.
It's just nonsense. You can immediately discount that because, there's a motivation here. Money. There's no doubt everyone was wary of ever seeing the real-life object, and when the owner at the time, Jason Haxton, offered to send it on, they all politely declined. I'll be like, no, Jace, you can send it. Let me have a look at that.
I
want
want
to
it.
open that wine cabinet. I'm going to have a little wine cabinet in my trailer
Yes!
on set. So what's going on, eh?
Great.
Why do we keep referring to this thing as an actual and real Dybbuk box? Is it? I'm going to pull Zach Bagans to center stage now, but he doesn't mind. I think Zach loves it. Zach has been immersed in the world of the paranormal for many years, and as well as his museum of haunted stuff in Vegas, he has hosted or at least produced TV shows such as Ghost Adventures,
Haha,
Destination
I was right.
Fear, Paranormal Challenge. Really? This is cringe. Help! My house is haunted! That's a real name of a TV show only in
no.
America. Although I think I could have workshopped a better title there. Yes, literally anything. Although this is...
I mean, it just reminds me of the Help, I'm Trapped in books from like when I was a kid. Like, help, I'm trapped in the gym teacher's body, or help, I'm trapped in the first day of school. Like those. Like, just, it's all body switching pretty much, except for the one Groundhog Day episode. But like, that's what that gives. I've never actually watched any of like Ghost Adventures, or like I might have watched like an episode or two of that kind of thing, but I always just hate them. Like, they're so overproduced, and it's like, if you listen carefully, you'll hear the spirit box lady say, murder me or something, and like it's like and it's like that doesn't sound like anything. It doesn't sound like anything ever. And the only reason like you can kind of hear what they say that she said is because they put the text on screen. If you are watching one of those shows and they're like, listen carefully, close your eyes, and like don't look at what they say she's saying and see if you can hear it, because you can't.
Listen, I'm poking fun at America, right? But we have some truly awful TV shows in the UK as well. Like, there's literally a show about people who go to an island, and I think they're not allowed to have sex with each other or they lose the game, called Love Island.
Oh, is that what Love
It's like,
Island's
well
about?
Done, create. Wait, do you have that in America as well? I get the feeling that did cross the pond. Right?
I think it did,
There
but
was another one when I was a kid called Neighbours from Hell, and it was literally just about people being neighbors.
Great.
What the Who watches this drivel? How can you
people,
watch that
apparently.
when you've got so much quality content to consume on YouTube like this?
Good question.
He likes this ghosty stuff. He also had a show called Deadly Possessions where people bring him creepy stuff and he decides whether or not to buy it for his museum. The Dybbuk box is the first item on the show. So it's kind of like porn stars, but for
Haunted items.
for haunted. And PAWN, not porn stars like PORN, YouTube algorithm, just to make that clear. You smart enough to figure this out? Former owner Jason Axton tells Bagans that the box had been kept buried in a military-grade container deep in the woods on his Missouri land for the last 5 years. I remember someone left a comment on one of the videos years ago, about military grade. And they were like, yeah, military grade just means made by the lowest cost contractor that the government could find. So it doesn't mean quality. So it's always stuck with me.
That's good to know.
It had been kept
I didn't know
in a lowest cost container deep in the woods on his Missouri land for the last 5 years. Haxton has been plagued with illness, weird pains, and bleeding since he first took ownership of the box. Another previous owner, Kevin Mannis, also brought onto the show. He seems to be the first person to own the box after the original owner, a Holocaust survivor, passed away. We'll get into this in more detail later. He said to give it to his mother as a gift, but she opened it, felt what she described as a rush of pure evil blow through her, and consequently had a major stroke, losing her speech and most of her vision. Bagans invites Mannis to reconnect with the box in his
sounds like
isolated
a bad
basement
luck.
room. Mannis walks in, opens the doors of the box like it's nothing. Then he starts acting all weird, lurking in the shadows of the basement and reciting a long and creepy sounding poem in a deep voice with references to a shadow man.
Okay.
I hate all of this stuff. It's like the ghost hunters or
All
whatever.
right.
It's like, or paranormal, whatever. And they're like, oh, we're going into this house. Oh, what was that sound? It's nothing. It's nothing.
nothing. It's always
How can they
nothing.
spin so much content out of nothing? Bagans
Because
is
they're
very
actors. They're actors. That's how. And it's like, it's lucrative, you know, and people like to see them panicking and screaming and running around like morons. I always liked the Shane and Ryan one, BuzzFeed Unsolved, and then they moved over to a different channel or whatever. I always liked theirs because it felt the most realistic, you know, like Ryan believes in stuff, Shane does not, and like it makes for a really good dynamic, and they don't add all of that stuff in there. Like Ryan will freak out over basically nothing all the time, but Shane just sits there and makes fun of him for it. So that's great. I love it.
pretty bananas watching this, and lights everywhere in the museum are also starting to flick on and flick off. Eventually, they get Mannis to leave the room and a rabbi starts explaining about the box, but the more he attempts to rationalize the whole thing, the more Mannis suddenly starts coughing uncontrollably. Eventually, Baggins concludes that Mannis and Haxton are probably overly attached to the box. I watched the whole segment and didn't see anywhere that Baggins actually took the box, but it's in his museum now, so I guess he did.
Okay.
Let's get further into the backstory of this famous object, though, shall we?
Yes,
the real
please.
history of the Dybbuk Box.
Just give me the real history,
Here's what
not
it says
people
on the Haunted Museum
wanting
website.
attention.
Shortly following its arrival, mysterious protruding holes began to appear in the walls around the artifact, as if someone was trying to break out from within the exhibit. A Las Vegas marketing executive and Baggins both witnessed a black cloak figure pass through the exhibit's closed
they did.
door during a private tour. This has also been seen by multiple guests and staff at the museum.
Of course
So
it
far,
has.
so spooky, right? Baggins has also done a lot of research into the history of the Dybbuk Box, which has been handily made into the last episode of Season 1 of The Haunted Museum. This episode has been rated a 7.2 on IMDb, which makes me want to reconsider my entire personal rating thresholds, but there you go. Yes, 7.2, it should be good. But I guess it's because people who watch this shit are super into it. Like, it's a self-selecting crowd. No one's watching The Haunted Museum who isn't into haunted shit, are they? It's not like I'm going to watch The Haunted Museum and be like, this is garbage, and give it a 4. I'm never watching Haunted Museum in the first place. It's not like a major
That's fair, me
blockbuster
neither.
that everyone's going to go and see and then rate. It's super self-selective. Want to find out the history of this haunted box? Well, there are a few major changes from the established narrative, but that's showbiz for you. Otherwise, this version seems very close to others that you can find, and I'll add some more details at the end. For now, though, let's go through it Baggins style.
Oh,
It
God.
starts in the wee hours of October the 3rd, 2001, with an old lady on the floor in some sort of medical establishment in a pool of blood. A nurse, absorbed in whatever in her clipboard, fails to notice the only thing in an extremely long and otherwise totally empty corridor until she almost trips over her. Rewind 3 hours.
Good job,
and we
nurse.
see the old lady in bed. Obvious religious paraphernalia is around her. A large crucifix is on the wall, as is a picture of a nun. As the Dybbuk box is related to Jewish folklore, I'm not sure what any of this is doing there, but never mind. Yeah, maybe
that's fair. But also, it's like, I feel like people who believe in demons are the people who are more likely to see them in everything. And to like, I feel the rush of evil. Or like people who believe in that stuff already are usually more on the Christian side of the spectrum. Which, I mean, you know what? That might be completely false. I just feel like most of the people I've spoken to who believe in demons are Christian. I have a lot of, or not a lot, but I've had friends in the past who are like pagan, who have practiced Wicca, like that kind of thing. But they don't really talk about stuff like this. Like that's not part of their whole deal. It's usually deeply religious Christians, who see all of this stuff.
Really like, wait, wasn't this a Holocaust survivor? Statistically likely to be a Jew. So, a crucifix? Did they just, in this TV show, they just got some random props? Yeah, I need like generic religious props. Okay, well, here's a crucifix. This is a Buddha. And that's the elephant dude from Hinduism. Just throw them around the place. We'll be fine. The woman suddenly sees the doors of the Dybbuk box open, and after she turns on and off a lamp a few times, a dark shape tries to jump scare us from under the bed and from the shadow of an armchair until the woman presses her nurse call button. The figure vanishes and calm is momentarily restored, although the woman lies there getting increasingly terrified until there's a sudden jump cut to her smashing her face into a mirror.
Dang.
Luckily, I'd finished eating my chili dog by this point. I guess that explains how she then appeared dead in the corridor, as the show then jumps to a house party scene 3 years later in 2004. Question. How do we know the backstory of the old woman's encounter if no one else was there? Did the Dybbuk box fill the nurse in on the story so she could later relay it to Zach Bagans? I'm getting the feeling some creative license with the truth may have been taken here. Yes. What would make you think that?
Can't imagine.
Oh, what nonsense. Carrying on. The creepy box is now...
Oh, God. It's so mean. I'm so bad at watching stuff like this. I have one that's going to be going up soon. That I just was like, I'm going to go into this being with like open-minded. And then I just spent the entire time being like, that's ridiculous. It was, I'm sorry.
Just on the shelf at some young person's house, and in the aftermath of a party, one guy, Brad, wakes up to find his housemate, Derek, urinating in the corner of his room.
What do you mean?
Oh, classic suck. Derek. Nice. I actually get really uncomfortable with the portrayal of men peeing on film. I have no idea why. I think it's just the sound. I always find it satisfying because I'm like, yes.
Was Derek sleepwalking and like thought he was peeing in the bathroom? Because that happens apparently. People like take a piss in the closet because they think that they're in the bathroom because they're dreaming about going to the bathroom, like that.
Relieving oneself. What a joy.
Oh my God,
anyway,
Simon.
Brad flings his covers off. Derek has somehow disappeared, but there's a puddle of liquid in the corner. He goes to confront him, not noticing a shadowy figure in the hallway as he passes. Derek claims innocence of the whole affair and then asks what's happening to Brad's eyes. Guess what's happening to them? They're bleeding everywhere. So glad my chili dog was already gone. But the bath is then full of cockroaches, and that's the end of that bit. It's kind of weird.
I mean, okay, so that just sounds like it could be a, like, frat bro house, you know? Like, someone gets really drunk and pees in the corner, or they're sleepwalking, or he was having a dream, pees in the corner, you know? Don't know what to do about the bleeding eyes. That's weird and frightening. That sounds like he's having a aneurysm or something. The cockroaches in the bathtub. Sometimes cockroaches be in the bathtub. I mean, they've never been in my bathtub, but we a couple years ago, we had a couple of like water ones, like that were like in the sink. They like lived in the, and I blame the renovations that were going on upstairs at the time, because we never had a problem with them before, and we haven't had one since. But like sometimes they just like be in the drains. They like the drains. They like the wet.
How did this get a 7.2? Even people are into this. Just be like, what? This doesn't make any sense. How did this with this? And it's like, oh, but then again, I guess people who watch The Haunted Mansion or whatever the it's called don't give a shit about stuff making sense because they like stuff that doesn't make sense, like ghosts. Oh no, then it says part 1, The Professor. This thing
I liked
has
the
multiple
haunting
parts.
of Hill
Please
House.
send help. A youngish lecturer who we learn is called Jason, presumably based on Jason Haxton, is telling a tiny class about strange superstitions from ancient times. He holds up some form of stone amulet and says that the ancient Egyptians would wear this for days at a time as they believed it helped with digestion. Honestly, though, I'm making fun of all of this, but that does sound like a video that I'd make on my channel side projects, like weird ancient superstitions, weird amulets the Egyptians used to wear. This kind of stuff. It always does banger views. Then he says, can you imagine wearing something like this today? For those reasons, you would be ridiculed. Dude, have you never heard of what are those armbands that people wear for like balance or like magical healing crystals?
Yeah,
people aren't ridiculed enough. Like not even close to enough.
Bracelets or the
like
what's it called? Like the rings that people wear, and it's like when the energy is bad enough, it breaks, and like that's releasing of the bad energy. It like collects the bad energy, and then like it breaks, but it's made out of, and like people think that that's like, oh, it's releasing the bad energy. It's made out of such like a shit material that like, and you put it on a finger, which you use a lot, it's going to break eventually. Like it's built to break. That's the material it's made of is so crap, but people use that as if like it's like the energy. Okay.
They should be ridiculed all day. The dude has obviously never seen anyone wearing a crystal. Exactly. He dismisses the class, and a figure who had been skulking at the brag brings the Dybbuk box for him to look at. Oh, it's Bleeding Eyes Brad from the last scene, so I guess we're still in 2004, and his eyes look okay, though, now.
Good for Brad.
He tells the backstory of the box, says he bought it online despite the seller's warning that it was haunted as he thought it was a joke. Where's he going? Going onto eBay and searching for haunted box.
Yeah.
When it arrived...
Is it a haunted box? What kind of box?
Everything changed. The professor looks inquisitively at him and asks, what changed? Hello? He just said everything. What, do you want him to be specific? My eyes started bleeding everywhere. The cockroaches in my bath. This professor, who was like, it'd be ridiculous to wear crystals. Why you bring it to him? He's obviously a skeptic. He'll be like, mate, take your stupid box and get out of here.
Yeah, right.
You need to go. Get out.
Is he a skeptic? Or is he like mad that people wouldn't believe it?
Elaborating, the student says, terrible, terrible things. One of our roommates got really sick. My eyes were bleeding. Well, we saw that bit.
You shouldn't go to the hospital if your eyes are bleeding.
Washed it all off, and that was that. The cockroaches were a far bigger problem, if you ask me, but he didn't mention those. Maybe they just live in a particularly roachy area.
Yeah, right? I was like, maybe it was just dirty.
It shows a shot of the bath, like, overrun with cockroaches, and he's like, nah, it's got nothing to do with the box. That's just
Gross.
the bath. There's always been cockroaches in this house. He then tried
I've never
to
seen
destroy
that
the box,
many.
but something powerful kept holding him back. Oh, finally, something actually bad happened. The housemates all took part in a dare to sleep with it one night in their own room, and Corner B. Derek was found dead in the basement the next day, lying on top of the box. The official cause of death was given a heart attack, but Brad doesn't believe this. Derek was only 19.
Derek.
He offloads the box on Professor Jason, who, after asking if he's on drugs, sagely advises the student to speak to a counselor. I like you, Professor Jason. Is like, mate, one, are you on any psychoactive substances? Two,
some kind of drug.
Do you have a carbon monoxide detector in your home? Because I've got a bag full of them here and you should take one.
You should.
The professor takes it home to study, and the camera pans behind it so he can see the Hebrew inscription on the back for the first time. His wife comes in, then immediately leaves again for a spin class. I would have just gone straight there. Also, I used to think spin classes involve literally spinning around, or maybe spinning hoops around your arms and waist, or some sort of fat trimming exercise. It's cycling, right? It's you do it on some sort of bicycle. When I found out what it really was, I was horrified. Wait, what is spinning? What is? Oh God, is this some? Why are you horrified at this?
Because it sucks.
Spin class. Maybe I've got it wrong. High intensity
you're right.
bicycle stuff.
It's just,
well, okay.
It just sucks.
Is that so horrifying?
I mean, look, if you thought, oh, hey, I know her. I don't remember her name at the moment. But like, it's like if you expected it to be something whimsical, like spinning hula hoops, and then it turns out it's like a horrible hour and a half of painful biking while someone shouts at you from the front of the room, then yeah, I think it is horrifying.
What? I do not understand.
The prof pulls up a generic movie search engine and looks for information on Derek's death. Oh, generic movie search engine. Like, yeah, it's Google, but it can't be Google because they didn't get brand clearance on it or whatever. So it's like, Finder. He actually types in mysterious death of Eric Thornhill, and hilariously, so the suggestion comes up as he types it. The professor sees a creepy figure against the curtains, or is his mind just playing tricks? Suddenly a cockroach runs over his hands.
Gross.
That's gross. He hears footsteps and weird sounds upstairs, so he goes to investigate, but it's pitch black up there and he doesn't appear to have a light switch anywhere in his house. Oh no, he does have one, and he eventually uses it to go upstairs, but finds nothing. He then turns the light off as he comes back down. It's so dark up there, mate, no one would blame you for wanting to keep the light on.
Yeah,
oh
right?
no, the Dybbuk box is standing open on his table. There looks to be a small silver candlestick or maybe a goblet in there, plus a ripped bit of Hebrew on some white paper stuck to the back. He closes the box and looks around everywhere except the direction of where a white, veiny hand is reaching out toward him. As soon as he touches it, however, it disappears. Oh my god, this all sounds so real.
Yeah.
Cut to his wife coming home from spin class, presumably. The professor is staring at the TV, which is playing The Night of the Living Dead, in a clip that's talking about murder. His wife just plops down on the opposite end of the sofa and starts watching too. No hello or anything. The camera angles start to infer that the professor may be about to attack her, but the scene ends again. Is Jason possessed by the Dybbuk? Rereading this, I'll never watch the whole thing. There seems to be no need for this scene at all. There seems to be no need for this whole TV show.
Yeah, why does it
exist? We're now back in the professor's lecture hall where his wife calls him and asks him to come home, so I guess he didn't bludgeon her to death in front of one of the seminal horror films of the 1960s. When he gets back, she's acting really sick and her nose starts bleeding. I'll be like, does anyone have a Geiger counter? We should check this box, because people seem to be just bleeding out.
Yeah, right? Is it radiated?
Maybe there's some invisible rays.
Radioactive?
It's like, oh no, it's really radioactive. It turns out there was that carbon-60 or whatever it is, tungsten. So what's that super radioactive stuff that was just that just destroys people? This is a pretty tired trope of something not being quite right, but it's just a minor bleed not coming from her eyes or anything. The professor looks at the Dybbuk box suspiciously, but it's sitting there all innocent on the table again. Yeah, those things in movies where it's like, you know something bad's happening. Like in real life, you get a bloody nose, you're like, oh no, why have I got a nosebleed? In movies, it's always like, brain tumor, or like something terrible's happening to his brain. There's aliens in his brain or something. Like it's always like when it's just like blah blah blah, and then that trickle of blood runs down the what's this bit called? Where the moustache goes. Not the cleft, but like the bits. Look, that part where it just drips down the nose.
The nasolabial
and then it's like the guy's like, oh.
Something terrible.
No. The professor
in real life, it's like, oh man, I need to get the humidifier out.
To the Dybbuk box suspiciously, but it's sitting there all innocent and on the table again. She doesn't want to call the doctor, she just wants her husband to be home with her. Bit demanding. She's fully dressed in a long-sleeve blouse and work trousers and even wearing shiny shoes. This is getting less believable by the second. What sick person wears tight shoes inside the house? Anyway, back to the small wooden box that houses a demon. That night, Professor Jason wakes up and starts exploring the house again, saying, hello, into the darkness, as if a Dybbuk would respond with a cheery, hiya, back.
That would be fun.
Zipping past and scary music. Finally, the Dybbuk reveals itself as a long-haired, bleeding-eyed, waxy-skinned ghoul. The professor's eyes start bleeding too, and as the Dybbuk reaches out, he screams and wakes up. Oh, I hate dream sequences. They're such a waste of time so far. This has had two of my least favourite things in it. Dream sequences and peeing men. Back in class,
Katie.
The professor questions Brad about where he actually got the box from, as he now believes it has supernatural powers. Just like that, he's had a bad dream and my wife got bleedy eyes. He's not like, maybe we should send this in for some sort of testing of some kind. Like maybe there's a biological factor or the radiation, like I already mentioned.
No,
he's like,
demons.
Nope, haunted. Definitely haunted. I'm convinced. We now head into part 2, the antique dealer, and I'm hanging on by a thread. We're zooming back in time for a year, so it's 2001, and the presumed antique dealer is wandering around, checking out goods that have been put out in front of someone's house, seemingly as some kind of estate sale, as all the pieces look quite old and made of wood. This antique dealer is based on our friend Kevin Mannis. He buys a stack of wooden boxes and chairs as a job lot, and he doesn't notice what we now know of as the Dybbuk box as part of it. The woman running the sale notices, though fails to mention he's just cheerily bought a malevolent spirit that might ruin his life and the lives of those around him.
She just wanted it out of her house.
Back at his shop, he finds it and puzzles over it for a minute before taking it to his mother as a birthday gift. Guess who his mother is? Yes, it's the old lady from the start of the story. Wow, it's all coming together. What brilliant storytelling. His mother describes the box as beautiful, even though it's got scratches on it and basically is a wooden cabinet with 2 metal bunches of grapes stuck on the front. What's she going to do with that? I'd probably be hard-pressed to sound enthusiastic over receiving that bulky piece of tat from my own grown-up antique dealer son, but I guess
That's
she's
fair.
acting the part of a better mother than me. It'd be like,
You know what? Fair. If my son is an antique dealer, he better give me the choice stuff. I want the stuff that I know is worth money.
oh, it's lovely, dear. What a piece of what, you got no taste. Then there is a quick reminder of what happened to her, face bashing into a mirror, etc. And then we join Kevin rushing back to the hospital as soon as he hears the news. Hang on, I take back my snarky comment from the start, as she isn't actually dead. She's just had a stroke and is
good.
lying in bed without being able to speak.
Love that
Ken
for
asks
her.
how she could have been in the hallway, as she hadn't been able to walk in over a year. His
Consider us all shocked.
mum is able to write, so scrawls out, "It was in the room with me." When asked what it was, she scribbled, "evil." Kevin is still sitting there like a fool, so he writes, "no gift," and underlines it many times, finally turning her eyes towards the Dybbuk box. She could have just pointed at it, if you ask me. Did she mean, "that's no gift, it's a curse," or "your sister didn't get me a gift"? Can you believe it? She could have been a bit clearer, as her writing was totally fine. Kevin hastens back to the house that he bought the box from and the woman from the sale, but she's like, no takey backsies. But in a much more serious, frightened way, with her eyes showing that she obviously knows all about it and has many things to hide. In a twist, she actually ends up running after him to tell him her experience with the box when she was younger.
Great.
We know she was younger as it's the same actress, but now her hair is in 2 plaits. She opened the door
That
into
is
a
how you
room
know.
where her grandma was sitting alone, but our
They change the hair. That's how you know someone is younger, because they either have longer hair or it's just in a different style than it is for the rest of the time.
girl was sure that she heard voices and saw someone as she opened the door. Her grandma poo-poos her crazy notions and asks for another cup of tea, including her cup, indicating her cup, which is inconveniently far away from her on a little desk, along with some photographs. And guess what? The Dybbuk box. The girl starts to ask a question about it, but her grandma yells at her not to touch it, go near it, and definitely to never open it. Why did she put her cup right by it then? Back in the
Yeah,
present,
good
the
question.
girl tells Kevin that her grandmother was a Polish Holocaust survivor, but back before the Nazis had taken over, her grandmother and friends had started trying rituals to evoke spirits to help them against the rise of the Nazi tide. That sounds useful. At some point,
I mean, you'll try anything, I guess.
Calling one that was pure evil. Eventually, the group took all of their knowledge
that's
and managed to
not
trap the
great.
demon into 10 separate boxes, which they scattered all over the world. The first box was the most powerful one, which is the one poor old Kevin bought without realizing.
Of course.
Apparently, the grandmother was the custodian of the box and wanted to be buried with it. This has got to all be made up, right? Some dude who's got a museum. He's like, cool, I found this random ass wine box. I'm going to make a TV show about it that purports it to be real. Then I'll put it in my museum and
Yeah,
we'll double dip
sounds
on
right.
that money because people will buy the TV show and then they'll come and see it in my museum. It's brilliant. Well done.
It
whatever
is.
your
It's
name
quite
was.
smart.
Apparently,
Zach,
the
right?
grandmother was the custodian of the box and wanted to be buried with it. Why would you not fulfill an old lady's dying wish? Now do you see all the trouble it's caused? This is not in line with Jewish burial customs though, so maybe I'll cut them a break. The professor, Jason, finally meets up with the antique dealer Kevin, who presumably tells him the backstory and finishes by saying that Jason needs to get the box out of his house. The professor goes back home where his wife is having the world's worst migraine, her hair is coming out, and she finally vomits all over the floor. They see a doctor who is almost no help whatsoever, saying the wife is as healthy as can be. After looking in her throat, taking her blood pressure, and feeling her neck.
Great doctoring.
Done. Medical checkup complete. There's nothing wrong with you, doctor. My hair's falling out here.
Stress.
Must be stress. Back at home, she goes to bed while the professor heads outside with the Dybbuk box in one hand and an axe in the other. Oh yes, he's finally going to go medieval on that thing, but guess what? He's grunting, he's straining, but that axe just ain't swinging. It's like some sort of invisible power is holding him
Okay.
back. Eventually, the axe falls behind him with an anticlimactic plop into the grass. He falls to his hands and knees, but when the camera pans around to the box, it's lying open on the ground. Has the Dybbuk done a runner? The next scene is of the professor...
It's one of those things, though, that's like M. Night Shyamalan making wind scary, in The Happening. It's like, oh, the wind is the bad. It's like, it's a box. Like, it's a box. I don't know.
taking the box to a local synagogue. Oh no, now it's part 3. The rabbi. Oh my god, Katie, God bless you for watching this garbage.
How
Strap
long
in,
was
everyone.
it?
What's going to happen now? In case we hadn't realized that this was a Jewish house of worship, the camera lingers on things like the Star of David, so we really know where we are. Yeah, I guess they just forgot about that when seen in the hospital with the generic Christian imagery.
That was a different lady. She wasn't Jewish. Pay attention, Simon. She had nothing to do with this part.
The professor begs a rabbi inside to take a look at the box, but the guy's quite rude and tells him that he can't help him as prayers are about to start. The professor asks as if he at least heard of the Dybbuk box. Cue an old bearded rabbi with his head draped in prayer shawl, basically saying, "A Dybbuk, you say? Come this way." The older rabbi then starts reading the inscription on the back of the box, with the younger rabbi translating as, "Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our Lord, Hashem is the One. Blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever." I was wondering if Hashem was some sort of demonic thing, but apparently it's commonly used by Jews to refer to God and translates as the name. Oops-a-daisy. So, this particular inscription is just part of a normal prayer recitation and not evil or supernatural
normal
in any way. The old rabbi then just opens up the box as casual as he like and takes a load of stuff that we've never seen before, such as old coins, small coils of cut hair, and quite a large ornamental stone thing with more Hebrew carved into it. I guess the Dybbuk had exited the box at the professor's house then. It is confirmed.
Yeah, right? It was like, if the box has been opened multiple times and none of this has been in here, why is it here now? What the hell?
The rabbi that the spirit that has attached itself to the box is pure evil and called a Dybbuk. Tell us something we don't know, Grandpa. Jason then asked for more information on what a Dybbuk actually is, like he couldn't have put that into a weirdly worded search engine request from the start. And here's what the rabbi says.
All right,
when a person commits a great crime, such as murder, but dies before they get a chance to repent for their sin, their evil spirit is displaced and remains on earth. These spirits that are destined to hang in limbo are known as a Dybbuk. It takes someone who is only an expert in Jewish mysticism or the Kabbalah to be able to trap one of these spirits in an item such as this. A Dybbuk is a devouring parasite. They have one purpose and one only: to cause pain. Anyone who comes into contact with a box containing one of these spirits falls victim to the evil within it. No one is spared, not even us. There is no destroying it. The professor is then advised to look to the Holy Book of Exodus. He's then supposed to, number 1, wrap the box in gold leaf. Is this the whole box we're talking about? That's not going to be cheap. It will actually. It won't be that expensive.
It won't be
gold
that bad.
leaf, surprisingly cheap because it's so incredibly thin. Number 2, encase it in acacia wood. By this point, I think I'd have just resigned myself to a lifetime of pain. Number 3, bury it deep in the ground. This will then free everyone who has come into contact with its influence. Honestly, that sounds quite easy.
Great.
Like, I mean, obviously taking it out to the garden and smashing it in with an axe is hard, but just pop onto Amazon, get some gold leaf, get some acacia wood, boom, you can be done.
The Dybbuk doesn't mind that. You can do that. That's okay.
Deep, easy. Just go outside and dig a hole for an afternoon. So another question comes up. Why didn't the Jewish grandmother do this ages ago? If she was so into mysticism that she managed to summon a spirit in the first place,
and then
surely she would have known how to get rid of it too. Now it's up to this poor schmo and his low-paid teaching job to do all of the hard work. The rabbis then say that the box made its way to the professor for a reason, and that he needs to be the one to free everyone from it, and he has to do it now.
Special.
I'd argue
He's
that
the
the box has
chosen
now
one.
made its way to the rabbis, who clearly have far greater knowledge of this thing than the professor, but I guess they just want to get shot of it as fast as possible. Does anyone know where you can purchase large amounts of gold leaf and some acacia wood? Yes, Katie, Amazon!
Amazon.com.
The professor races to his lecture room and starts trashing his desk, maybe trying to find that pile of gold leaf that he hid there after the last work due, or maybe his desk drawers are made of acacia wood, so he's breaking them down into easily workable pieces. Hey, I might have been right, as he gathers up some wooden boards and heads for home. Meanwhile, he and his wife have been unsuccessfully trying to get in touch with each other, and she's lying in bed with ominous music playing around her as what looks like a closet door creaks open in the background. The professor reaches home and puts the Dybbuk box on the floor with the stack of wood, and then climbs the stairs, warily calling out his wife's name. She's still just chilling out in bed, looking pretty ropey, but not particularly worse than she has
fine.
been. The professor then grabs a giant ornamental fan they have on the wall, and guess what? It's covered in what he hopes is real gold leaf. Well, how's he going to get that gold leaf off? Like, gold leaf, you have to apply it.
Yeah,
and
what?
then it kind of stays on there. You can't just go into, like, some church and start peeling the gold leaf off. That's going to be a disaster. Wow, he had what I thought were rare items at his fingertips this whole time. What are the chances? He wraps the box of material from the fan and nails the plank from his acacia wood desk to it. I hope the spirit is actually in residence at this time, or else this is all totally pointless. Uh-oh. Before he nails the final plank in place, he starts getting a weird feeling, and we hear creaking on the stairs. Oh my god, he's then flung across the room by an unforeseen force, and the hammer clatters to the floor. Something invisible seems to be holding his legs as he tries to pull himself toward the hammer, but he makes it. Just before hammering the last plank in, he sees the dark figure of the Dybbuk in front of him. He switches out the hammer for a flashlight and that happens to be lying on the ground, and we are treated to a proper, if brief, look at the Dybbuk. It looks like a woman with long dark hair, completely white eyes, and waxy white skin covered in black cracks. It seems frozen in the torchlight, but as the professor valiantly drives the final nail home, it screams and rushes towards him. He flings his hands up to protect himself, but she's disappeared, presumably trapped inside the box, although I don't know how she could have got back in, what with it all being wrapped up and all. In the next scene, his wife seems to be fully
Just,
recovered,
like, sucked in and
they
they can't
both
get
look
out?
at the box that he has standing on a table. Hurry up and bury it, Professor. Bury it. In a postscript it says, for years the professor refused to tell anyone where he buried the Dybbuk box. In 2016 it was dug up and brought to Zach's museum, where it is now on display. This is just all made up, isn't it? It then shows the box on full display in a glass case, not wrapped in gold leaf or anything. Zach, what are you doing? At the start of the episode, Zach Baggins said he felt compelled to touch it one night and a dark power surged through his body and, quote, a dark power surged through my body and it was quite simply one of the most terrifying moments of my life. Wow, touching wood gave Zach Baggins the creeps. Anyway,
But apparently not enough to, like, actually, at least the gold leaf, like, what the... My dude, at least pretend it's a replica. Like, if you really want this to be... I don't know. It's a money-making scheme, but still.
Sums up the history of the Dybbuk box, the maladies and the pain that befell its owners, and also introduces Jason Haxton and Kevin Mannis into the story. These two seem quite the characters, so let's take a further look into their history with the box. Kevin Mannis seems to have introduced the box to the wider world, having bought it from the creator, so let's start with his story. I wonder how much of this is actually like, it's just so loosely based on facts, right?
Yeah.
So incredibly loosely. Kevin bought the box in an estate sale and put it on eBay after trying and failing to return it to its previous household. On the listing, he detailed the origin of the Dybbuk box, saying it had come from a Holocaust survivor who had then bought the wine cabinet in Spain after escaping a concentration camp before later migrating to the United States. The woman's granddaughter had told him there was supposedly a Dybbuk in the box and she had never been allowed or wanted to open it. Mannis tried returning the box on the spot, but she was having none of it. As soon as she took ownership of it, bad things started to happen to Mannis. His store was trashed with all the light bulbs in the basement exploding. His mother, who had been in fine health, had a stroke 5 minutes after looking at the box in his store. After regaining slight motor control, she managed to spell out no gift and hate gift until Mannis finally got the picture and took the box back to his house. That same day, the lease to his store was terminated with no notice. He and his girlfriend were plagued with nightmares, and he and visitors to his house kept seeing shadowy figures at the edges of their vision.
That's unfortunate.
Again, gotta check that smoke detector, Mannis.
You really do.
It's carbon monoxide detector.
Yeah, that's really important. Do check your carbon monoxide detectors, especially if you're seeing hallucinations. But you could also, like, are you sleeping with a fan? Like, because that can cause some stuff too sometimes. But, like, yeah, you want to just check. If you start bleeding from your eyes, go to the doctor. So, bleeding from the nose excessively, you should also probably go to the doctor. Some people are just prone to nosebleeds, but, it does suck that the lease on his store was, like, suddenly, removed. That's really unfortunate.
In his eBay listing, Mannis said that he would have destroyed the box, but didn't know the force that he was messing with and didn't want to make a bad situation worse. He sold it with all the original contents, which he listed as, quote, 1 1928 US wheat penny, 1 1925 US wheat penny, 1 small lock of blonde hair bound with string, 1 small lock of black-brown hair bound with string, 1 small granite statue engraved and gilded with Hebrew letters. I've been told that the letters spell out the word shalom. 1 dried rosebud, 1 golden wine cup, and 1 very strange black cast-iron candlestick holder with octopus legs.
That sounds cool.
What a weird collection of trinkets.
I want the
listing
octopus
gathered
leg
quite a lot of
candle holder.
attention, but people were dubious about actually owning the Dybbuk box, and a college student named Asif Nitsky ended up being the highest bidder at $140, which is $230 today. Not long after Nitsky bought the box, however, it ended up on eBay again under the heading Dybbuk Haunted Jewish Wine Cabinet Box.
Oh, dude, he so bought that just so he could sell it at a higher value, didn't he? 100% that's why he bought that thing.
It's the most eBay title ever, isn't it? In this listing, which ties into Brad's story in the TV show, the temporary new owner said that while they were skeptical about the box being haunted, and they did not believe in paranormal things, weird stuff had definitely happened since they bought the box. He lived with 6 other people, and they all took turns to have the box in their rooms. Subsequently, the other students started complaining of burning eyes or feeling listless and sick. Electronic devices started dying. Every day in the house saw an increase in rodents and bugs. The seller pointedly states that he didn't want to talk about the things that had happened between a certain time frame, but but is now selling the box for even more reasons, such as having trouble sleeping, seeing vertical blurs in his peripheral vision, having
Get
light bulbs
your
constantly
carbon
burn out, smelling
monoxide
strange
detector
smells, and losing his
checked.
hair in large amounts. He ends by saying that he has received so much correspondence about the box since originally buying it, he thought someone else might want it. In February 2004, it sold to Jason Haxton for $280, which is about $450 today.
He sold it for twice as much as he bought it for. My God, like, that is such a good, like, I want to find a haunted doll and just sell it. Hey, it's a haunted doll, super haunted. For sure, for sure.
Haxton seems to be the main force in pushing this Dybbuk Box story, selling or donating it to Baggins, and also writing a book on the story called Guess What? The Dybbuk Box. It was published in 2011, a year before the Possession movie came out. I haven't read it, but apparently it does not come right out and say whether Haxton thinks this is real or is a hoax, ending up with an annoying what do you think type of conclusion.
I hate
And
that.
don't worry, we won't be having a what do you think conclusion on today's video. The answer is no, it's not haunted, and if you think it is, you're a bit silly. Haxton also launched a website called DybbukBox.com,
Harsh but
which
fair.
sets out the story as per Kevin Manus's original eBay post, and also under the research tab shows a team making an exact replica of the Dybbuk box. What? Has Haxton diddled Baggins and kept the actual box for himself? Kenny Biddle of the Skeptical Inquirer has the same question after discovering that at least one copy of the box existed, but by examining the one on display at the Haunted Museum, he was satisfied that while a copy was used for filming the handover episode, it was the original box on display in Las Vegas. So I suppose now it's
It doesn't matter. Like, I'm sure there's lots of these kinds of boxes around. Like, I doubt this was the only one made. You know, it sounds like a cool little thing, a cool little wine case thing. So, like, I don't know. I feel like you could just say anything was the Dybbuk box.
It's time to get to the crux of the matter. Is the Dybbuk box actually a haunted item?
No.
Despite all the many examples of bad luck that have befallen owners of the box and its comprehensive backstory, there are many who remain skeptical that the wine cabinet does indeed house a trapped spirit. I wonder why that would be, Katie. Maybe because someone just made up this entire story so that they have something in a museum, allegedly, in my opinion. As it's now trapped behind glass and Zach Bagans never opens it, we can't do any real tests to see
I love that in all of these, like, oh, it's super haunted. It's the most haunted. Glass traps it forever. It's an Annabelle behind glass too. Like, I feel like it's like, yes, it's super haunted, and you need to do all of these like super extra things to like keep the spirit where it's at. But or you could just put it behind some glass, and that also keeps the spirit at bay. As long as you're paying me money to keep it behind glass, it's fine.
what might be in there. Some people have scoffed at the fact that there's actually a Dybbuk inside, as these demons attach themselves to people, not wooden boxes. I'm skeptical because Dybbuks aren't real. Demons aren't real. I refute this, however, as the backstory clearly explains that this cabinet was used to trap a part of a much larger evil spirit, so it is a prison the Dybbuk is tied to rather than being a chosen host. But there is one much more substantive piece of evidence that we've been dancing around for however long that is. Kevin Manus has admitted to creating the entire story himself. Oh,
good.
He?
Good, Kevin.
I guess it should be shocking because mostly people like to keep these stories.
Yeah, they
spinning
don't
because,
usually say anything. They usually keep it mum until they die.
as I always say, money.
Is it hot in here?
The first admission found came from a 2015 post on a Facebook page in response to a piece that a paranormal investigative show called Haunt Me had done about a Dybbuk box found at a high school. Manus wrote, quote, I have to call bullshit on the episode Haunt Me did at Mexico High School with a supposed Dybbuk box. The setup and definition of a Dybbuk box was entirely false and erroneous, and the claim that the box had so-called fifth-level demon inside was also a bunch of
now there's
hogwash.
levels of demons.
I am
All right.
uniquely qualified to make these claims, as I am the original creator of the story of the Dybbuk box, which appeared as on one of my eBay posts back in 2003.
Oh
The
my
idea that
God.
Dybbuk boxes have some kind of history prior to my story, and the idea that a Dybbuk box could contain anything other than a Dybbuk, along with any deviation to the type of contents I created to be found inside a Dybbuk box, is laughable at best. How about this? If you or anyone else can find any reference to a Dybbuk box anywhere in history
Wow.
prior to my eBay post, I'll pay you $100,000 and tattoo your name on my forehead. Bottom line, I
Wow.
applaud your reference to my work, but use your own creativity to come up with something for your show and leave my practice of Kabbalah and my intellectual property alone.
Okay, so he just I didn't realize that he'd completely made up the Dybbuk. That's so funny. I didn't realize that Dybbuk was such a new creation. 2003. Okay, that's so great. Oh, that's good. Well done, Kevin. He just fully created I wish I had a drink. I would toast to that. That's awesome.
That's hilarious. Ouch. Scathing blow there from Manis. And who knew that the Dybbuk box was trademarked him? I doubt it could be seen as intellectual property if subsequent people such as Kevin Haxton used it to make money on butts, etc. and weren't sued by Manis unless he was also getting a cut. Both Manis and Haxton are listed as production consultants in the crew of the possession, even though Manis had sold the box many years earlier and there had been at least one other owner in between, unless Arsif Nitsky was a Manis alter ego, which I wouldn't put past him. Wow, so it was all just at the beginning. It was just a joke by a guy selling on eBay.
That's amazing. So clever.
They were so stupid.
I love it.
Stupid.
It does seem that while he's more than happy to have his original creation out there permeating the public consciousness for 20 years now, he doesn't like it when other people scab off his work. The confession...
Fair enough.
It'd be like, Simon, I'm very angry that you made this whole episode about it. I'd be like, okay... You can be very angry all you want.
No, why would he be angry? He is giving Kevin credit. Kevin's been given credit and even lauded for what he's done. Like, I feel like that's fine. Because Simon's not trying to pretend that this was a real thing, you know? He's not trying to sell a Dybbuk box.
It's like, it's my idea. I should have made videos. So it's like, okay, make a video. I don't care, bro. Just chill.
He gave you credit. Credit has been given.
That's so ridiculous. The confession was made in October 2015 and the Deadly Possessions episode where he appears with Haxton aired in 2016, so it's possible that it had already been filmed before he made the admission. Remember the weird voice and poem he recited in the basement during that show? I've googled some of the lines I could make out, which is how I found Kenny Biddle's article in the first place. He had also been interested in what Manis had been sprouting and eventually found his page on broadjam.com, where people can upload songs and vocal performances. And guess what? In 2012, Manis had uploaded a file tagged as a spoken word/poetry called The Shadow Man Part 1, which is exactly what he'd been reciting in the Deadly Possessions episode. He was not possessed by a mysterious demon from Jewish folklore. He was advertising his own work. It's still on the Broad Jam site under Kevin Manis's name, and you can download it for 99 cents if you're so inclined. In his bio it states, he is best known as the original author and creator of the iconic Dybbuk box. So yes, the cat is well and truly out of the bag now.
Great.
Manis officially came clean to a much wider audience with an interview for Input in July 2021. When Charles Moss spoke with him, Manis confirmed that a Dybbuk box wasn't something that ever really existed in Jewish folklore. He'd just made it up. He bought the wine cabinet at an estate sale, but it didn't come from a Holocaust survivor's family, but just that of a run-of-the-mill attorney. His aim with creating the Dybbuk box narrative, he told Moss, was for it to become an interactive horror story in real time.
Oh, that's so cool. It kind of gives Slender Man vibes. Like, I mean, I've done something like, I mean, not created a whole, like a haunted whatever, but I mean, have fun coming up with like backstories for objects or items, and it's fun. It's a fun little creative exercise. Like, well, can you create an entire story for this penny or for this chair? Like, where'd you get it? I just found in the alley an end table. It was really cool end table, so I took it. It's like, well, maybe it's haunted. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason it was in the alley other than someone's moving and they just didn't have space for it. It didn't fit their aesthetic anymore. It's like, I don't know. It's fun to come up with backstories for things, and the crazier the backstory, the more entertaining it is. So I dig it.
This guy's like, it's just an OG creepypasta, basically.
Yes.
He carved the pair onto the box and got hair from friends to put inside. While he made up most of the rest of the backstory too, Manis did confirm that his mother had a stroke after receiving the box on Halloween. This, while sad, was just a coincidence. He also refuted being partners of crime with Jason Haxton and seemed rather aggrieved in general that Haxton had managed to get a book out of his creation when all he had really had was a long, creepy eBay post. He made another appearance on a Zach Bagans show, Ghost Adventures Quarantine, but I'd watched enough about this by then, and Manis' aim was to keep the story going by reminding people about the remaining Dybbuk boxes still left in the world. If you recall, the original evil spirit was split into 10 pieces. He also mentioned the Shadow Man recital he gave in Deadly Possessions in the input article, saying he was just practicing it as he'd been down in the basement and hadn't heard from any of the crew for a while, so he didn't know if they were filming or not. He was giving a spoken word performance in the next few days, so he started reciting his piece while he waited. Mouse contacted Bagans after Manis confessed to him, but Bagans would not commit to conceding that it was all a hoax. He emailed Moss to say, quote, "Since owning the Dybbuk box, there have been countless documented experience people have had with it, not just from myself, but my museum staff, my fellow crew members, visitors, and most notably, Post Malone. I think there is much more to the Dybbuk box, and regardless of its origins, it is very much cursed and evil."
It's not! Oh my god, it's like you just want it to be because you put it in your museum, and so you desperately wanted it to be evil. It's not. The guy who created it's like, it's not though. It's fake. I made it all up. The whole thing. I was trying to sell the thing. Oh my god.
I'm not surprised that more controversy and conflict keep arising from it. The Dybbuk box has always raised questions and intrigue, and this adds to its narrative.
2003?
There is more to this powerful cursed item. Its story is still being told.
Zach.
Wow, Bagans is one powerful spin doctor. Yes, well, of course. He's like, yeah, no, well, of course there's stuff to it. Because he's already paid for it. He's got like a whole museum. People are coming to see this thing. Even though some guy literally admitted that it's just a creepypasta that he made up on the internet. Crazy times. If you're wondering about that reference to Post Malone, the rapper accompanied Bagans to see the Dybbuk box, and Bagans touched it with Post Malone, merely touching Bagans' arm at the same time. This was apparently enough to curse the rapper. However, with his plane making an emergency landing, gun-wielding robbers breaking into his house, and he was then in a car crash all within a couple of weeks of visiting the supposedly haunted item, well, that's really just some bad luck. Yeah. I mean, it's also like, how bad's Post Malone's luck? Literally in there, it's got the word his plane. Poor Post Malone.
Simon!
Oh no, your plane had to make an emergency landing.
Oh no, but guess what? Did anyone die? It doesn't sound like it. Emergency landing? Landed though. Your personal plane.
How many times my plane's made an emergency landing? None, because I don't have my own plane. Yet.
I don't even have a car.
What on earth are you doing? Shh, I'm manifesting.
It isn't haunted though, it's just made up. It's just a made up box with a made up story. It isn't even a wine cabinet. Kenny Biddle of the Skeptical Inquirer started looking for similar items and found the exact one. A liquor bar cabinet structure by a company called Robert B. Cariff of New York. Hilariously, Biddle writes, despite what various owners would have us think, the infamous Dybbuk box is not a Jewish wine cabinet from Spain, but instead it's a minibar from New York.
Awesome.
Biddle treated himself to his own box and stocked it up with the appropriate glassware and bottles. In a caption showing in front of his minibar, he writes, "My Dybbuk box actually has spirits in it. If anyone has one of these, I'll buy it off you."
I want one.
Send me a message. I want a Dybbuk box. I want my own.
I do too. I also want my own.
I will call your attention to the Decoding the Unknown episode on James Dean's cursed car. I can't believe I've done an entire script on this now, as in that episode, the Haunted Museum came up and I made a brief reference to what Bagans was calling the most haunted object in the world. I then said, don't request an episode on this though, because I looked at it and guess what? Someone just made it up. And hey, if you want to pay $48 to look at a fake haunted wine cabinet, then that's up to you. I totally don't remember that at all. I was just like, the Dybbuk box.
Funny.
Like, I don't know where I found this. Probably just like asking ChatGPT about what to cover. It was like the Dybbuk box. Turns out it's just nonsense. Much like what ChatGPT will sometimes spout at me. Seems like I summed it up pretty well in one sentence, but hey, it was in the list of what Simon wants, and what Simon wants, Simon gets. You're damn right. Also update, that was from an episode written in November 2022. General admissions to the Haunted Museum is now a whopping $54. Who the fuck is paying $54 to go and see this? So
I've the most I've ever paid to get into a museum is like $10. It's like I think we paid more than that to get. No, I think we paid at one point. There was like, it was like $20 a person, except for my sister who was a teacher, so she got a discount. I think that's a thing, something like that. I don't know. That's a lot of $54 for a museum. That's crazy.
Oh, there we go. I guess Manis started it, Haxton ran with it, and now Bagans is stuck with whatever everyone knows. There's an old minibar filled with useless junk. But I doubt he'll stop making shows about it. At $54 a bob to enter his haunted museum to view a fake haunted wine cabinet, he's the one who really became the master of the Dybbuk box. Yes, he did. Respect.
I mean,
that's some business savvy right there, and he knows it's nonsense. You know he knows it's nonsense. He's a businessman. He's just like, let's make some money. Thanks for watching. Oh, if you like this show, leave a review on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Oh, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. See you next time.
Bye. All right. Like I said, that was a long one. I'll give him a little like on it, though. That was a long one. The Decoding the Unknowns are really interesting to me, but they are all really freaking long. I still enjoy them. I usually watch them on my own, though. So this was the first time I think I've done a long one like this here. But thank you all so very much for watching. If you've got a haunted item, let me know. If you have a Dybbuk box, let me know. I don't know. Similar to Simon, I am not a believer in that kind of thing. I think that there's rational scientific explanations for pretty much everything. I understand that sometimes I'm like, well, we don't necessarily know what that explanation is yet, but I think it exists. And then it's things like, yes, this is a super haunted cursed object and it's behind glass and you can pay me to see it. It's like, so you don't care then about potentially being the cause of a demonic killing or something, then you just want to monetize it. It's like, if it was true, if any of those items in any of those haunted museums were actually dangerous, then the people who are profiting off of those items are evil. Because, like, that is the most evil thing you could do. If you have an item that it's like, yeah, there's a demon in this, and if you like touch it or look at it wrong, it can attach to anybody. It's like, and yet you're gonna make people pay to see it. That's awful. It sucks so bad. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more long stuff like this, go ahead and let me know. If you want to see more Decoding the Unknown, tell me about it. And again, let me know what I should be watching. I want to see creepy stuff this Halloween season. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!